asking questions about?
I do. Hey, you mentioned, what was it in his bio? Synesthesia?
Oh, right.
What is that?
It's a cross-modal translation of sensory input. So you see something, but you hear sound. So you see a color and you have a sound. It could be any sense mixed with any sense.
So
Is
you like hear color, or if you're hearing music, you see it relate as like color, and it's like a cross of your senses.
Oh, okay. Is
You're
that
able
something
to
that like
smell and
influences
taste
your work, or do you suffer from that?
No.
Do you have that?
In my senior year, getting my psych degree, I had an abnormal psych seminar, and there was only like 6 of us in there with the professor. And I was writing a paper, and the idea was learning more about schizophrenia through synesthesia.
Ah.
So it was a really complicated paper. I couldn't find much research back then, and now there's a lot more people know what synesthesia is nowadays. This is back in '83 or '4. And I was up about midnight trying to finish this thing, and I had my living room completely cut and paste for real, where you cut pages and you have to paste it on, and then you type it all up, and back then. And I was exhausted. My girlfriend had gone to bed. And I was just sitting there going, I just felt lost. I couldn't get my thoughts together. And I thought I'm just going to take a break. And I was sitting there and I got this idea for a story. So I just typed this single line story out. And the next day handed it in to my professor, just thought he might find it interesting. It was on perception. And so after I typed it out, I remembered he had said, you know, if you're all messy in your brain, straighten up your environment and it'll help. Or vice versa. If your environment's messed up, straighten it up, and it'll help your thoughts. So I organized everything around me, and everything fell into place in my head. And I was able to get the paper in order, and the next day I went to the library and typed it out and stuff. And then in my first Fiction 101 class, I wrote this story about this little boy, which grew into a novella, and it's at the end of my first book of short stories. So those two stories, when I wrote this book, kind of came together and ended up being this book.
Okay. 'Cause I was going to say, because I've read some of your other work, and within that book, and you do a lot of, sensory perception and just almost hallucinatory, almost like, we've talked about H.P. Lovecraft.
Right.
It seems like that's part of your genre, where you really play, like you said, it gets scarier as you go on, but you play with a lot of mind things in your writing.
Yeah, well, I got a degree in psychology. So.
Yeah, and to me, that's, one of the most interesting parts of your writing is when you get more surreal, and it is kind of like Lovecraft. And I think that's really hard to do, and kind of, because you're grounded in reality, like with the boys there at the beginning, but then your stuff gets super weird, but it seems like it's always grounded. It's not formless.
Yeah.
You should use that as a selling point for your book, because it's really, I could listen from over there, and it's a really good story. It's just, you gotta learn what would be interesting to people, and I think if you run off of the synesthesia base, I think that would be really something you could use for marketing.
And this story too is based on a house I lived in second and third grade, and I had friends James and Jimmy. It was weird. I can't remember their last name and first name, but it was like James Snowburger and Jimmy Snow, which was interesting. And so I thought of that for this. And the side of the house that they're working on, it was the side of the house I tended to play on. It was all dirt. We did have problems. A lot of this is a true story. We brought people in to till the soil, and he got mad and quit the job because it broke his tiller, because there were so many rocks. And I had this little Santa boot, this little plastic Santa boot. I put 19 cents in, and I buried it out in that yard on the side of the house. And a couple of weeks later, I thought, I want that 19 cents. I never found that again. I dug that whole yard up.
The worm took it.
That white worm took it.
The worm took it. Well, it's not a worm, I'll tell you that.
Right.
But that's kind of how the story all developed, and then the whole book came off of that. And then these two boys grow up, and they have some messed up things happen to them because of this situation. And then the whole rest of the book is them trying to figure out what's going on in the world as bad things start happening.
Well, I know that you wrote this before Stranger Things, but it echoed. There's an echo there.
Sweet, I love that.
Right, yeah,
I love
yeah,
that show.
yeah.
It's a great show.
Well, a lot of people do.
Yeah, but I grew up on Twilight Zone, and loved Twilight. I watched Twilight Zone probably when I was too young to be watching.
Yeah.
That's true. I'd also say, There used to be more, I think, appreciation for short stories, and it kind of went out of vogue, but it seems like people are into shorter fiction now more. Do you find that true?
I know I heard that a lot of people who commute like short audiobooks, like a short story audiobook, because they could just get it done before they get to work instead of a whole novel or something. So I got short story ebooks up on Amazon. I've got 3 audiobooks, and this is one of them, this story.
I mean, it's a big comparison. Everyone is compared to Stephen King, especially if they write about, a group of boys that, see something scary, then grow up, like It and all that. But I think one reason why that's, so popular, and Stranger Things does the same thing, is that to scare people, nothing scares you as much as your childhood memories and childhood trauma. Is that one reason you're drawn to having the boys, the protagonists?
Yeah, and I find things that are attached to reality in our lives a lot scarier than the stuff that's just really, really out there, which is fun. But if you tie it closer to reality, I think it's a lot more disturbing.
And then do you even paint your own childhood into that? Like, do you identify with one of those boys in the story?
Yeah, but I'm not sure which one, so maybe it's a little schizophrenic there. A little of both of them, kind of. But yeah. Yeah, I don't know why. I've got a few stories about little kids that, I don't know what that's about. Childhood trauma, probably, or something.
Or when you're a kid, things that you would dismiss as an adult get magnified as trauma. Then years later you go, oh, that was nothing. But through a kid's eyes, everything is so mysterious.
We moved around a lot. When I was 3, we moved to Spain, and then the East Coast. My parents got split up in Spain. Moved to the East Coast. We moved back to Tacoma with a new stepdad and a new little baby brother. And then we moved like every year because of the way things were. It just kept happening until about 5th grade, and then we were in the same house until I got out of high school. But there was always, being unsure of things and kind of paranoia about life and stuff. So maybe that's where some of this stuff comes from.
I'm just curious from like the Amazon point of view, like, everyone can self-publish now. You've obviously done it even pre-Amazon, where you've actually printed your own books, and now there's print on demand. Has the technology helped or hurt you as an indie author?
There's an awful lot of self-published stuff out there that's not up to snuff, kind of thing. So I think it's kind of messed things up. I got these 2 through a micro publisher. I had screenplays, I write screenplays. I had screenplays online on a website, and this author found it and asked if I would adapt her novel series to a screenplay. And I did, and then she had another author she knew, and I did hers, which was an espionage story. And she said she knew a guy that was publishing horror and introduced me to him, and we got to be good friends and stuff, so he published my first 2 books. So.
And do you think that with all the competition on Amazon, do you feel like you get buried sometimes since there's so much out there?
You've got to find some way to be seen. It doesn't matter how good it is if nobody knows about it. So
Well, that leads me to something that Louis said a while ago, the local bookstore. Apparently there's a resurgence in local independent bookstores, and the thing that makes the ones successful are the ones where the staff loves books. They actually read books, and rather than carry the New York Times bestseller list, they carry the books that they have discovered that they really love.
Yeah.
And those are the bookstores that are really making a resurgence and really becoming profitable.
Wow, I like that idea.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, kind of like Diana's done, come out of the indie, and actually, you've appeared at Barnes & Noble a couple times for book signings. Do you see yourself moving in that direction, or like networking with people like Diane and Larry? Does that kind of give you a connection to get into like those kind of venues?
I don't know. I'm learning a lot as
Well,
I'm going.
those venues, the box stores, are what are going away.
Yeah.
The Amazon, and what Amazon is doing is they had I guess you call it a brilliant strategy. They've sucked the life out of Barnes & Noble and out of Borders and the whole business, and those stores are collapsing. I mean, you go into a Barnes & Noble, and books take up less than half of the floor space now.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
So that whole thing is going away as Amazon is now opening up their box bookstores around the world, and that's what's opened up this vacuum that local bookstores are starting to capitalize on, where people who love books, who like to talk about books, who like to connect with people around books, that's the new independent bookstore.
Wow.
And so that's filling all the space that's being left behind by the exodus of the box stores.
Okay.
It's a strange transition period we've been going through for a
Yeah.
long time now.
But Barnes and Noble doesn't have to go down. We, the people, can save it.
Well, but we the people can also say that we prefer
Go buy it, Barnes and Noble.
that
Yeah.
neither Barnes and Noble, well, Barnes and Noble's in trouble because it did things wrong.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
it
Yeah,
responded
that's true.
responded exactly the opposite of the way it should have responded to Amazon. Independent bookstores responded the wrong way to Amazon, and that's what caused the exodus of independent books first, and then box stores. And basically, we the people need to demand from our businesses what it is we want, rather than just taking what they cram down our throats.
Exactly.
And Barnes and Noble is guilty of that as Amazon is.
Yeah, and the traditional publishers are probably
Exactly.
the most
Right,
guilty
yes,
of all of them.
exactly right.
And do we have any more questions that are specific to the story or the reading that was for today? Is that
I would just ask one more, and I've talked to you about this before. I know you don't like to be pegged, but if someone said, what is your genre? And even if you skip around for this book alone, and if I was going to recommend it, what genre would I tell people this book is in?
It straddles horror, sci-fi. Probably more horror.
Okay. And do you find that limits you? Because I know sometimes you're hesitant to be pegged as a horror writer.
Yeah, I like speculative fiction.
Okay.
I started out with horror. I had a lot of childhood stuff that I was working out.
Speculative fiction is in like Harlan Ellison's Boy and His Dog.
Exactly.
You guys know that.
Exactly. I loved Harlan when I was young. Yeah, Ray Bradbury and stuff. Being compared to Ray Bradbury would be awesome someday. There was one blurb in here comparing this to Clive Barker's Books of Blood, which I loved that series when it came out.
Because we think that's important that people get like a handle, like they always say, okay, first what genre, then is it long fiction, short fiction?
It's been hard for people to pigeonhole my writing, which doesn't help you, I think, as a writer,
Well, but that gets back to the bookstores. The only reason that we have genres is because bookstores need to know where to put it on the shelf,
Right.
But readers are not that sensitive. They're not sensitive to who the publisher is. They're not sensitive to what the genre is. They just want a good story.
Right.
I think, sci-fi subgenre would be horror.
Yeah. I like sci-fi.